Okay, so Eyal, hi,
Hello,
welcome.
lovely to meet.
Nice to talk with you. I think we're talking about your book, Take the L, which the subtitle is How Men Understand, Withhold, and Express Their Love, which uh, is a big topic.
It
So,
certainly is.
first thing I'd like to ask you is, what is a man?
Um, a good place to start, I suppose. I, s- I guess today, if you think the way I think about it, or the way I was brought up thinking about it, is that it's one half of the species that has been imposed with certain roles or ways to conduct themselves, um, certain expectations that they have to fulfill, and have earned in certain capacities a certain position in the society or in the fabric that they live in. And they either have to uphold those standards or they can question them in certain areas. And I think that's maybe a general place to start, or where my line of thinking started about this book.
Okay, so this is you're outlining kind of the conditioning that we find ourselves in, those of us who are so-called men. And then you ask the question, like, how do you feel? How do you feel love?
Yeah.
So here I am, I'm structured, I'm brought into this world, I'm pre-verbal, I'm structured even before I know what a word is into a certain way of being. It might be a color choice of my clothing, it might be the activities that my parents place me in, the way that they
Mm-hmm.
relate to me is maybe different from a sister or um, and now I have that structure invisible to me, but there. And now I add in, you know, all of my own experiences as a man. And then suddenly I want to know how to feel. Where do I find that? Where do you find feeling in all that conditioning? And how do I know it's not more conditioning?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think I need to find a way how to feel. I don't think everyone senses that. I don't think everyone at some point in their life stop and say, oh, I need to learn how to feel. They may just allow the structure that they're in or the conditioning that they've been through in their life to continue dictating the way they go about things. I think usually something tends to happen where you're forced to question how to feel. Um, for me personally, and a lot of what this book is, I thought back to my relationship with other men in my life, the friendship that we've formed, because I think those have been long-lasting relationships. And I was questioning, why are they so strong? And what about them do I love and care about so much? And what makes them special? Um, I tried to find, as maybe as mundane or as superficial as it thinks, but I support a football or a soccer team, and the passion and the feeling that I had for them was so strong that, again, I found myself asking, why am I able to feel such strong feelings towards this team, yet it is hard for me to express those feelings either to myself or the people around me. um, so those were two of my starting points, we can say.
Yeah, okay. So can you give me some clue? Why do you feel that in relation to, let's say, a tribal collection, which you could call a team, you could
Mm-hmm.
call it a religion, you could call it a nation, right? I mean, we do have these collections of common interest, common activity, or even maybe knowable outcome that we are attracted to, and we say, okay, I can feel something in this. I feel connected to you on my team because we're going for a common outcome, which is to win or to train together or to support each other in that process. Is that why you're able to feel in that context?
Yeah, um, I think that's a good way to put it, of having a common goal. But the reason I'm a bit hesitant to say that is because a lot of the way you're brought up is also in this competitive environment, whereby maybe the goal that you're after is one that the people you're sort of side by side with are going for the same thing. And I think that's what made it more interesting to me to be a part of a team. I played soccer growing up, and all these former teammates are some of my closest friends. We were vying for certain positions, or we all wanted to succeed or our dream to fulfill, but it hinged on our team doing well. And I think we were able to develop this feeling of, if I'm progressing, I'm also progressing alongside the people who I care about. Um, but I think then when you remove yourself from that and you find yourself in quote unquote the real world, what do your goals become? And how are you chasing them alongside other people? A lot of people want success either with their work or with their relationship or with whatever it may be. But it's usually a journey you have to go by yourself. You don't have these ingrained teammates unless you find yourself suddenly isolated and you think to yourself, I need the support again. I need the people who I went on this ride with. And that may require you to tap into, I don't know, an ability to admit a weakness, or an ability to admit that you don't really know what you're doing or how you're supposed to get to that goal or that common cause. Um, and then it's a question of, do you have people in your life that you can do that with, that you feel comfortable saying that to? And if not, and you find yourself trying to do it by yourself, then what? What are the alternatives that you put in your pockets as you chase this goal? And I think that's where a lot of men maybe struggle or have issues, or at least that's what has been my experience.
Yeah, I think we can acknowledge that the men in the culture, that the contemporary culture, are pretty lost in their understanding of who they are in relation to the world around them, and gravitate to these kind of cartoon versions of themselves, the hyper masculine, and or the attempt to be more feminine out of an idea of femininity, or out of an idea of not being so hyper masculine. But mostly it ends up being isolated and lost and disconnected from the quality I think you're pointing to. So what did you discover? Like, what is the way through that?
So yeah, I think you make a really good point there. And you want to reaffirm a sense of stability or a sense of strength, maybe. And you can do that in myriad ways, I suppose. But one of the common ways that people find is they go into relationships and they try to find the same sort of authority that they lost by establishing a connection where they are in control, which leads, I would say, to, yeah, unhealthy relationships. Um, yeah.
Now you're talking about, let's say, a relationship to a woman,
Hmm.
cisgendered man. Let's just use that as an example. That's what you.
Yeah.
So now I fall in love, whatever that is. We'll have to get back to that. Yeah, let's start with that. What does that mean? What does that mean to fall in love? Is this narcissism? Have I looked in the pool, I see myself, or I see my projection and I go, oh, that's more of me. I can form this into more of me. I'm safe. Is that what falling in love is?
Depends who you ask, I suppose. I think, yes, you do seek some of yourself in it. I talk a lot about bell hooks in the book. I think she quotes John Wellwood, who said that falling in love is allowing someone to allow yourself to become your best version. So it's maybe someone who gives you a capacity to be more of you. And it's not something that you're able to articulate or necessarily identify at the beginning, but it's just a gravitational pull that you have to them because you feel comfortable expressing yourself around them. So narcissism, yeah, you could say is definitely a part of that, but it's also maybe a willingness to be that thing for someone else and be able to create that space for someone else.
That seems like a tough sale, like I come to your door, I have a vacuum cleaner. I say, it's not working very well, but I'm pretty sure that you can change it around so it'll really work. Would you like to buy it? And then,
Well, that's
oh yeah, I would love to buy a vacuum cleaner. It doesn't work very well, and I'd like to spend the rest of my life rebuilding it so it works. This does not sound like a formula for a long-term relationship. Sounds like the
A messy
Titanic
house.
iceberg.
Um, no, definitely. And that's, I think, one of the biggest criticism about dating these days, where um, female partners are expected to perform the role that the mother did for the the man's whatever, however many years before he met her. And yeah, it's an unfair deal or an unfair trade. But that's why I think I said at the end, I think you're hoping, or at least idealistically, I would hope that you are able to be that person for someone else. And then it is, I'll take your messy vacuum cleaner and you take mine. And
Yeah,
we
but
work on both of them together.
this is also a bad, bad deal. I'm going to come to your door. Here's a non-working vacuum cleaner. I'm going to trade it for your non-working vacuum cleaner, and we're going to live happily after, vacuuming with malfunctioning vacuum cleaners.
No, I think the point is to fix the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, but how about this? How about if I say, I've worked on this vacuum cleaner. I've gone to the depths of it. I've torn it apart. It is working so well, and I would like to take care of your carpets for the rest of my life. Are you available to meet me in that?
Um, I think that's an idealistic way to, that's the hopeful thing, but I don't think people will voluntarily fix their vacuum cleaner, if we want to extend this metaphor more,
We probably
unless something happens.
I want to abandon this metaphor very quickly. Um,
Um, but something has to happen to make you look inwards and try to work on yourself. For some people, it may come naturally, but I think a lot of people, especially today, you get so bogged down by everything that's going on, and you have to pay your rent, you have to do whatever you need to do. You don't necessarily have time to think, am I the best version of myself, and am I ready to knock on someone's door?
yeah.
Um,
So now in the frenzy of my life, I go on a dating app
mhm.
and I like vigorously swipe left and right until I randomly end up with somebody on something called a date, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And now I say, I wonder why relationship isn't working out so well. Is there some flaw in my life that I need to look at in that frenzy before I register my story, my idealized, romanticized version of myself on a dating app with the absolute best pictures, not the pictures of me, from the wrong angle, but the best pictures, right? So here I am, the best version of myself as a cartoon, meeting the best version of you as a cartoon. I mean, it seems like a hopeless venture.
I think a lot of people will share that sort of dread that you just described. Um,
Well, what about
there's a
you?
lot. Um, I'll say that I think there are two things that play a part in it that are external first. One is we want companionship, or most people do need and want companionship. The second is just societal expectations that if I'm 30 years old and all my friends are married and have kids, I'm being left behind here. We used to go through all these life steps together, and now I don't get to go through them. Okay, well, what do I need to do? I need to go on dates, but I can't talk to people in public. So I'm going to download an app. And okay, well, I want to go out with the best possible candidates, So what am I going to do? I'm going to present this best version of myself, even if it's somewhat manufactured. Um, so between those two things, you wind up maybe starting to date or starting this journey before you're ready for it. But I think that's what life is. You like sometimes you just have to jump in and figure it out, um, and hope that you're not leaving too much in the wake.
So I think in your book, Take the L, in which you explore this, and I have to say, you do it in a very raw, vulnerable, and open way, which I think is the power of the book. You're really letting people look inside the mind of the contemporary man, the mind of a man who is in that lost world, essentially, trying to find the way through in the jungle of dating, relationship. And in that, I wanted to just like take you and shake you and go snap out of it, man. Like just like express your love, express your vulnerability, like surrender to this being that has shown up in your life, give it all up and just throw yourself at her feet But of
Well,
course,
where were you 5 years ago?
but I think this is also coming from my own fairy tale mind, right? Because that is the fairy tale, is that, you meet the woman, you just go, oh, this is the one, and you sacrifice everything, you just fall at her feet, and she goes, yes, and then you live happily ever after. This is not actually what happens. And I think your book is talking about the actuality of this complex mind and social structure and the internal reactivity within our own system to vulnerability. I mean, can you tell me more about that? Why were you not able to just rip your heart out of your chest and hand it to this woman and go, if you need to destroy this heart, go
Do
ahead.
it quickly.
Yeah, do it quickly. Do it calm.
Um, it's a very kind thing for you to say that, but just about the book to describe it in that way. So I appreciate that, first of all. Um, the easy answer would be that I grew up in a very specific environment of this group of guys that I love to this day, as I said, but we grew up in a locker room where you're supposed to project a certain persona at all times. Because when you project something else, you could be ridiculed, you could be pushed aside. Yeah, in whatever ways you want to define that. And if you're doing that enough times, if you're not training that muscle to express or to let yourself go, at some point in your life, you will be required to do that in order to form an intimate connection with someone. And if you've never trained that muscle in your life and your instinct is to fall back on what you know best or what you conditioned to do, what happens is, yeah, you find yourself missing the opportunity that you've been wanting this entire time. Um, I think, yeah, in the book, I talk about I really, really wanted it. I wanted this relationship to work out and I had these feelings for this person. But physically and emotionally, it was like they were tethered together. I felt confined. I felt like things were clamping down on me physically and emotionally. I cannot let go. And it was almost like I would be safer staying in my own little space than I would be trying to take that step. Um, so,
Yeah, so you're really pointing to the actual fact of relationship, which is it's essentially unsafe.
mm,
Like you don't have safety as part of that relationship. You may develop that somehow, but you don't, in entering into a relationship, you leave the structure of your own being
mm,
and therefore the safety of that structure. But you also experience something which is outside of the structure. Why is it that expansive state isn't more attractive than the contraction within the walls of my own conditioning?
um, it could be the comfort of familiarity or the safety or security of just knowing what to expect. Um, when it's just you, you can sort of control to an extent what you're feeling or what happens over the course of a day. But when you're willing to take that risk or that gamble of building something that is greater than yourself alongside someone else, then you're no longer in your own hands. And I think it's an interesting question, and I'm wondering what you're thinking. Can you ever feel utterly safe with another person? Or will it ever, like, will you always have that little thing in your mind of not everything is in my control? Um,
Yeah, so to me, there's something about recognizing that the control space, the space of my what I know, that's actually unsafe
mm,
because that's leading me to a life of contraction, of disconnection, of the absence of the related space that I so long for. So the real danger is never stepping out of that. Now, stepping out of it, I don't know what that is. You can never know, right? You can never know what it's going to be, but this mechanism that looks for safety projects, oh, it's going to be this. I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to be misunderstood. There's going to be demands on me. I'm going to have to perform. It's too much pressure, right? This is the voice that keeps us inside the wall of our own conditioning. And still the question is, we long so deeply for the space that is outside of that wall, right? This is the longing we have for love, and yet when it comes, we don't dare. That seems to be the thing you're exploring. And I would say in the book, it really is, you lay it out. I mean, it's, I found myself repulsed by you. That's a good book, right? Like, and I'm
Yeah,
sure that that is within yourself. You're repulsed by your own response
I
to
despise the human being in
fight.
that
It's
book.
like, I hate myself for this, right? And I was like hating on you. And I found
Um,
that really a rich experience to read where someone is writing about the part that they dislike. And I find, oh, I dislike that about myself as well. I mean, this is the man's experience, actually.
I mean, if you ask me, I feel the same way about this for myself. And yeah, the whole process of writing the book, as you can imagine, was not a very fun one. And the process of editing it and coming back to it again and again and again was awful. Because if you wanted to shake me from 5 years ago, just imagine what I wanted to do to him. But it's I'm trying to like manifest this statement into truth. Sort of have to accept this thing came into my life at a point where I was not ready for it. I wish I was, in hindsight, right? I wish I was able to take that step and to understand how uncomfortability and fear or anxiety or all of those things come into play when you're trying to build something that, as I said, is greater than yourself and really pursuing this love. But at the time, based on who I was and just the way I um, have navigated all my other relationships up until that point, I wasn't ready for it. Now maybe I am. And I think an important question or an interesting one is, had I not gone through that, would I have still been the same person today, or would it have happened with someone else? And people who don't go through that, because there are plenty of couples who meet and, you know, high school sweethearts and whatever, and their first go, they're able to make it work. Why did they not have to go through that, or how did they get out of that? Um, is it fair to ask someone for a second or a third chance, right? Should they believe that you're different this time and you've learned your lesson, or um, you've had your shot and that's it? So,
No, but who's defining that? I mean, this is again, this is the interior dialogue of reboxing yourself as if, again, the romanticized version is that we get one shot at, and now we blew it, and now we spend the rest of our days regretting that and hoping that someone else comes along. I mean, this is a structure that we're inventing. Does it have anything to do with actually what's moving? I think there's no question that the you of today is fundamentally different than the you of 5 years ago, simply by missing this opportunity to move outside of the structure of your own being. Now, at least you have a kind of fundamental awareness that there is something that you long for, right?
yes, I think the interesting part is it something or is it someone that I yearn for?
Ah,
Like, which is a bit of a more complicated question when you talk about structure because it's not in your hands. Maybe I am ready to unbox myself, but do I want to unbox myself with a new person that comes along, or do I want to unbox myself with the one specific person who I messed it up with? You know?
yeah. So, okay, when this is like now you're getting into some deep stuff here. Is it in a person or is it in you? What is
Um,
the quality that you're looking for? Is this in another human being that's going to somehow be the puzzle piece that makes you whole? I mean, that's kind of the fairy tale version of reality. But now we get into not only the challenge of being a man, which I think you're describing in the book pretty thoroughly, how complex difficult and how much suffering actually is taking place in the male psyche for all the reasons that you outlined. But now you try to match that up with a woman who has their own conditioning about how to meet a man. And they're going through the same level of introspection and change and suffering, trying to see their way through that complexity. And you say, okay, I want this one woman on the planet who's going to be the perfect puzzle piece to meet my entirely neurotic psyche. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a good story. Is there a different
Yeah, odds are
version?
not in your favor. Yeah.
It's, I mean, I know it's kind of a setup, like the district attorney is asking the witness a question, only has one answer, but still, I mean, we do have this question. It's, the relationship space is not, we're not, 200 years ago where it's a village and there's five candidates and like the baker and the baker meets invites his daughter to meet you, and then you talk to the families, and then like the marriage and the village celebrates, right? These are simple worlds. We're in a very, very complex world, which is mediated by technology, basically pushing, you know fantasy possibilities at you through these dating sites, and then all the media suggesting there is the one. I mean, every, rom-com and romance novel and all that, there is the one. I mean, is this really true?
Um, the romantic in me would want to say yes, but probably not. I think, well, there are a few things that you mentioned there. One is you asked if it's me or if it's the person. And I
Mm,
think at some point, if you've only ever become that best self alongside one specific person, they become a bit inextricable from one another, where you feel like you can only be your best self with them, just because you've never had that experience with anyone else. So while you're chasing that best self, you think, okay, how can I accomplish it? And it's I guess easy to think that it can be re-accessed by re-engaging with that one person. As far as the mediated part of it, which is also, it plays a huge part, the discourse around dating is so pervasive now too. It's not just the one that you mentioned where we're being pumped with all these, yeah, rom-coms and whatever, where with fairy tale endings, but it's also all these people who are telling you what relationships are supposed to look like, or what you're not supposed to be doing as your
mm,
part of the relationship.
right.
um, where we want to challenge all these social systems and these decades of either oppression, of hierarchies, where I'm a man, so I have to take care of my family, and I'm a woman, so I will do the emotional nurturing. Now you have people who are saying, no, you're actually not supposed to be doing that. And you should not be, a man should not be expecting that out of you. Well, that sort of puts everything into question, because I think we need to reach a place where both sides feel okay asking for something in return. And I think the conversation now is so difficult to engage in. And for many like legitimate reasons, right? We've had women have been oppressed in myriad ways, and maybe some in some situations still are. But for a man to expect a woman to contain him in some ways or to care for him, I think that's just a part of a healthy relationship. The problem is that that little aspect of the relationship is being fit into, or it's being enveloped by all these other oppressive means, or means through which men have oppressed women in for a very long time. And I think if men lose the ability to just ask for what they want, obviously within reason, I think the relationship situation will only get worse and worse.
Yeah, I question, okay, I want to question the notion that she will take care of me. I want to go into the question of the transactional nature of the relationship structure that you are suggesting. Because I think this is part of a kind of leftover shadow of the historic male-female relationship. You know, I'm the breadwinner protector. I go out and like I fight the dragons. I come back, and then you, the person who's taking care of the home and the children, you take care of me. I don't know that that's really what's happening anymore. I think what's happening now is individuals. Now, you're an individual. We haven't gotten into what this love thing is, but I've fallen in love with you. And now I say, individual, change who you are to become a person who agrees to transact with me in these specific ways. Take care of me, whatever they are, whatever my conditioning suggests you should be. And now you, the individual, go, okay, I will do that. And now say to me, okay, you change in these ways. Now we have the code of conduct. That's our transaction with each other. That's our relationship. We have the the syllabus of agreements that we can refer to. Now those agreements we can hold to, but now, haven't we just created or recreated this same mind structure that we wanted to move out of when we fell in love? Now we have an expanded version of this structure. So in that transaction, where are qualities like freedom, creativity, autonomy? Where do they exist? I say, I love you. I will never move away from you. And then 10 years later, you are the most boring guy. I've seen every part of you. You just want to watch soccer all the time. You know, I have no interest in that. I like to go out dancing. You don't like to go dancing. When I go out dancing, there's this like hot guy that dances really well, and I'm attracted to him. But I'm not going to tell you because our covenant is that I don't get attracted to anybody else. Or I do tell you and I disrupt our covenant. So we have these tensions within the transactional model that seem to me to undermine them. And there's resistance to that. You see what I'm saying? Like, is there a way through that where we engage in authentic relationship in which freedom, respect, autonomy is not impacted?
Yes, it is a relationship that is less transactional then and is more creational, maybe is a better word. Where as a couple, if you are a couple, you build a space whereby all these pillars that you mention about freedom and intimacy and authenticity and trust exist. And you feel emboldened and encouraged to pursue things that you wish to pursue. And I feel the same way. And we do so together. And if we're ever in a place where we feel ourselves pulling in different directions, where I want to watch soccer and you want to go dancing, we trust what we build enough whereby we can figure out a way to work around that, be it by compromise or by sacrifice, or through communication. But that's, as I said, I think that's like a healthy relationship, which is not rooted in the shadow of what you described when you started speaking.
Yeah, but let's rewind to the notion of control. The reason that I don't actually enter into a relationship with you is because I lose control, right? Within my own structure, I have absolute control. It's
Mm-hmm.
predictable. I know what I'm going to feel. I know what I'm not going to feel. Now I enter into a relationship with you. My fear is it can be that you're going to like leave me, basically, right? Like, yes, you'll engage with me, but I'm not actually that attractive. And you're going to move on to someone who is more attractive. Or it may be that you actually are going to engage with me and you're going to encroach. You're going to move into my space. Like,
Yeah.
and you'll never leave my space. It's like I'm being smothered by your entry into my space, right? So we have this sort of fear of, these are the basic fears of like I'm enveloped and swallowed up by you, or you're actually not trustable, you're not stable. You're actually not actually attracted to me. I've seduced you because I put my best picture on the dating app. But you haven't seen me when I first get out of bed in the morning, or when I'm sick, or when I'm feeling angry or hurt. And I know if I ever show those, you're not going to like it. Or that if you discover that I'm actually really boring, I really just am a boring guy. I really do like soccer. Uh, and I mean, let's face it, it's a pretty boring sport unless you're playing it. Okay, I'm sorry. I know you love it. But it's probably up there with baseball. It's slow. Compared to,
To each
to
their own.
basketball and football, just as an example. Okay, I'm just saying. Not
To
to challenge.
each their own. I take no offense.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, I think what you're saying, those relationships will just fail. Like those feel like, yeah, um, like an obvious point of discussion. Whereby if I run out of conversation topics and you don't look as good as you do in your pictures, then at some point we're just gonna fall apart.
Mhm.
Um, I guess it's what you're hoping for is to build something with someone whereby your attraction to them or your want to be with them is not contingent on the way they look or the conversations they can hold, but it's something more meaningful and deeper than that. And
Yeah.
it's something that you see reflected um, when you look at them, where you feel like you're able to expand yourself. Um, and something that, as I said, that is not contingent on a singular thing.
Yeah. So what's that quality then? Are we talking about love now?
I think we are. I think we're getting closer to it. Um,
Yeah, well, what is that? Because if it's not like my attraction to your physicality, because let's face it, that is going to change. You're young now, but you're going to age. You're fit now, but you're going to get sick, right? You're attracted to me now, but you are going to find repulsion because you're going to know more about me. And I know that there's aspects of me that are not well integrated. And so now it's got to be something that's not contingent on those qualities, right? It can't be that you're attracted to me. It can't be that you're physically attractive. It can't even be that you're intellectually adept, right? So what is it then?
I would say it's slightly different for each person. I think a lot of one of the things that happens in the book, I bring up this dinner party at the beginning where the host asks each person to say three things they love about their partner. And it almost becomes cliche, but um, a lot of people just say, "Oh, I trust them, I like them, they like me, or they're funny, whatever." And I think for each person, they would have a different answer for that question. Um, for me, it would be it's not necessarily a physical thing, but just being able to look at someone and just knowing that you're in the right hands. And I think the journey of trying to describe this feeling is maybe futile because it's sometimes indescribable or it's not a very tangible thing. It's just one of those like when you know. And you look at someone's face and you know, yes, this is it. This is what it's supposed to feel like. Um, so, I mean, what would be your answer to that same question?
The for me, the movement of relationship is not described by a partner. That's my answer to it. And it's not described by polyamory, by the way, either. I'm not looking at it like it's not one, it's many. I'm looking at it that the field of love is not described by transaction at all. It's not conditioned by a response. And it's definitely not conditioned by my projection. So then it looks to me like it's a manifestation. It's an occurrence. It's a collision. It's actually a calamity. And this is I think your book is a description of, all the systems of the psyche that are designed to avoid that calamity.
Such as?
Well, the fear or the projection, the control, the hesitancy, the inability to feel or express, right? So these are all avoidance systems. The calamity is that you find yourself in a circumstance in which there not only is no control, but there never will be. That's the calamity. And yet you're in it. I think you're describing something like that. It's not something that's easy to describe. And I would say your book is mostly a description of what it's not. This is the human psyche. The human psyche is a bundle of resistance to the thing that we say we want. And your
Mm.
book is a deep exploration of that resistance. It's painful. It's a painful read. I imagine it was extremely painful to write. Uh, and I'm curious for you, what do you want your reader? I just skipped over the nature of love, but I don't want to get too philosophical. I mean, I'll come back to that if you want, but I am interested in the actual structure of your book, which is not a philosophical book, actually. In some ways, it points to philosophy, but it's actually in the trenches. It's in the trenches of the human mind, and particularly the modern male psyche as it engages in the possibility of love. It's in that sense a really interesting right. So now, what is it you want the reader, that's me, to walk away with besides just horror at my own mind, really? Because I would say it's a reflective of the general male psyche. So it's not just you. I mean, you're exposing yourself pretty thoroughly in this book. Uh, so what is it you would like the reader to walk away from the book with?
I think that's a good place to start. Um, if if men who read this do feel the same sense of horror and partially directed at me, but part of it being directed at themselves, then I think that's my job done. It is a little bit, it's split in two in my mind, and it always has been. And one part of it is to sort of put a mirror up to men who are willing to read and engage with this content, and for them to pause for a second for themselves and look inwards and say, okay, how am I doing these things? How are these things that he's writing about impacting my daily life and my relationships? And what do I want to do about it? Do I feel comfortable engaging and questioning and maybe looking at parts of myself that I haven't really ever looked at? And I may not like what I'll see. So that's one part of it. And the other is to sort of try to describe males are privileged in many ways, but there are still a lot of systems and things that are working against them in myriad ways, and causing the suffering that we've been talking about. So I was hoping to present that to women and for them not to only feel sympathy or understand what men are going through, but specifically if they want to enter a relationship with a man, what is this thing that they are going to deal with? And when this man acts a certain way, where does that come from? And maybe not in a sense that, again, we're trying to ask women to do the emotional work in the relationship, but just to give them tools to better understand where the people who they're entering the relationship with comes from. And I think I also try to incorporate a lot of, or I did my best to incorporate the voices of other feminist writers and female writers that have talked about the history of being a woman or just the feminist movement. And I think a lot of that is to try to do the same thing in reverse and to try to give these tools for men who are entering relationships with women. What has it been like on the other side? Which obviously I can't speak from firsthand, but I can at least try to incorporate these voices and have men listen to it in a voice that they would hear familiar, or that would sound familiar to them.
Mm.
Um, I think it's relatively noticeable that a lot of the voice of the book, which was my greatest sort of thing in my toolbox, it's humorous at times and it is approachable, I hope. And as you said, it is vulnerable and I'm really letting you in. And I want through that intimacy to allow readers of whoever it is to engage with thought of these social systems we have around us, and to maybe have tools to better understand who's on the other side of the conversation.
Yeah, I do think that you delivered it. Again, I can't speak for the let's say the feminine aspect, but I can definitely speak for the masculine aspect. And I think the power of the book is that you're actually demonstrating and showing the capacity or the way through to be expository, to show yourself, to be vulnerable in self-description, to be fearless in a way, to be a fool, to be a failure, to not be the ideal, to fail at being the hypermasculine without taking on some kind of fake attributes, like just the raw nature of being what you are. That to me had a remarkable honesty to it. And I would presume that it will be better than any dating app in presenting yourself to the world. So I am looking forward to the second book, which is where you actually jump in and write about the absolute destruction as you collide with another human being in relationship in the same vulnerable way. And I think this is important for men to see that they can fail and fail in a transparent way and still be there.
So if I can say what I say much more concisely, and I think it's one of the lines in the book, but I hope this book does the work, um, or is the experience for other men that I had to go through, where if they just read this and it leads them to this higher understanding or deeper understanding of themselves, then I've done my job. And they don't have to live through what I lived through, because as we said, it was sad to live through and it was more difficult to write about. So that would be the goal, really.
Yeah. And I think if I guess like I think you're guessing from the female's perspective, it is a little bit of a map of the male psyche that isn't apologizing, isn't making excuses or rationalizing, but just simply showing it. Just, putting the light on the structures that I would say many men well, because it's not just a man, it's a culture of men, right? It's a culture of what a masculine expression is. Now, clearly that's breaking down in many ways, but it's also, it's in our genetic code. It's in the trauma and the ancestry of our own past. It's like gifted to us upon birth. Like, here you are. Here's the genetic code. Here's your ancestry. Here's the trauma. And by the way, if you're lucky, you have parents that are then going to condition you in the same way. And now go forth and love.
Yeah, good
Good
luck.
luck.
um, yeah, I mean, I can only hope so, really. I hope people find it as a map, and I hope people see it as a mirror, or I hope people see it as a guide. Um, it would be quite an honor for anyone to take anything away from it, and even you, if you said it induced some feelings of horror, but if it struck a chord with you in any way, I think that's really the only reason I sat down to write, and that would mean the most.
So the book is titled Take the L. I mean, this is referencing a loss, right? This is a failure. And I wonder what the title of your next book will be. and which will be something different, I would presume. But what is just if you want to share, like, what is the step in your life that came out of writing this book? Like, what's different about the way that you're moving in your life now? Like, what are the steps that you're taking now in the relationship space?
It's I always thought that if I was able to write the book, I would get this sense of closure. Um, and then I thought if I was able to get this book published, it would give me this sense of closure. But the more and more I'm in it, and the more I'm having to engage with this book, which, as I said, has not been easy in many ways, um, I'm realizing that it will never really go away. So I still feel haunted by the book in many ways, and that has played its own part in impacting my relationships. So I don't know the answer to that yet. And I think we're 3 weeks out as we're recording this from it coming out. And again, it also feels like maybe a marker where finally I can let go of everything that this book has been. But judging by how everything has gone so far, I don't think that will change either. Um, so I think maybe my next book would be about how don't write a book about your former self because it will keep you too entrenched in who you were, and will impede you in many ways from moving on.
Yeah, this is there's this the curse of the sophomore book, right? The second book, because the first book is still echoing, it's very hard to shake that. It's the third book that is actually the book
Yeah.
that's free. So, but I think, a book is not really what we're talking about. We're really talking about your life, right? We're talking about
Um,
how you engage in the world around you. And so to leave that first iteration of yourself behind, that so that you're not bringing a broken vacuum cleaner to the door, right?
we're
I love
back.
that metaphor is so bad. This is I would just want to say for anyone that's listening to this, Eyal is a much better writer than and the metaphors that I'm throwing into this discussion. So please don't think that it's about vacuum cleaners, or bad metaphors for that matter. But to leave the past, to break with that, while bringing forward the elements that you've integrated, and to discover something entirely new, is to take that risk. That the Eyal of take the L, that I did want to just shake you and go, look, just leave it go, man. Just be free. Like, jump in there. Like, yes, you're going to die in the flames of relationship, but what a way to go, you know? So I think
uh,
we must leave the past, right, in order to be free.
yeah. And I think if we want to go back to the personal for a second, but I'm much more aware of everything now. And I think through this experience, I've learned a lot and I've changed, and I at least know what is required, and I'm better equipped at handling those emotions myself. And that's again another thing that I would at least hope that people gain from it. Just the awareness of what is really going on as you're embarking on a relationship. Um, and maybe if someone reads it who has not had that experience yet, at least it won't be so unfamiliar when they are lucky enough to have that opportunity to crash and burn in flames. So um,
Okay. Well, for those who are, this is, there we go. Is that reversed?
no, it looks good.
Good. Okay. For those who have been listening, that's the book, Take the L. It is a tough read, but I think an important one. If you want to explore for the man to explore, and reflect on your own structure as you try to move through life and relationship, whether you're in a relationship or not in a relationship and looking for one, the question of what it is that you're looking for is deeply explored in this book. And for women who want to understand why the man in their life is the way they are, there's a lot of a lot of clues to the psyche, and it's written in a very vulnerable, very open, transparent way that's, I think, pretty remarkable. I think I would be terrified to lay it out quite as openly as Eyal has done. Eyal, thank you for your time and for your insight, and I'm looking forward to the next book.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Now you're giving me second thoughts. Maybe I was too open. Maybe we need to edit some.
So I think the
No,
lesson of that book is there's no such thing as too open.
yeah, no, I'm excited. And as I said, I just hope it does something for someone. So thank you again.
All right, thank you.